fair to say you simply flooded the system with money?
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we, as a central bank, we have the ability to create money that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency, and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve banks.
This is it. It is over. This is what the end looks like.
So that I think that the internet is going to be one of the major forces for reducing the role of government.
Something called Bitcoin.
Brother, can you spare a Bitcoin?
Bitcoin. You never heard of them a few weeks ago? Now everybody's talking about them.
The one thing that's missing, but that will soon be developed, is a reliable e-cash, a method whereby on the internet you can transfer funds from A to B without A knowing B or B knowing A.
That's right. It happened. Hey, I'm here from the financial apocalypse. This channel originally was called Lift the Veil, which is synonymous with apocalypse, end times, revelations, and that's what we're talking about, actually. There are some serious things going on in this world, and one really serious thing is actually inflation, which I've been talking about for a while. So I thought I'd bring you very important news about inflation today, and we could talk a little bit about what it means, why it means that we are actually in the end times. Now that inflation is real, it has been realized, it has been expressed, it's on everybody's mind. I got gas today. I paid for things today. And I have to tell you, it seems like things are more expensive. It definitely costs me more to fill my gas tank. And they say that's not going to stop anytime soon. So it's frustrating. We've never lived through inflation before, people my age, or mostly your age too. Unless you were around in the 70s, then you don't even know. So I can say about inflation, I don't even know. Never lived through it. We've been fortunate the last 40 years or so. Rates going down, bonds going up. When is that going to end? Is it going to end? And is it going to end in a complete and total calamity, like a catastrophe? The Great Reset. And then will there be powerful forces that will take advantage of that situation to snap up all of the assets and benefit, make themselves richer? You bet. That's the answer. You bet. Powerful forces will benefit from what they hope to be your suffering. And that's true. They actually genuinely hope for you to suffer so that they can benefit from it. Believe it or not. If people really knew, sometimes I actually get upset, even though I seem like a pretty calm, reasonable person. Sometimes the Fed does things, and I think to myself, these are really evil people that really want people to die and suffer, and they actually want massive inequality, and they don't care. And they don't care that it's their policies that make everyone suffer, and they get paid for it and stuff. It's crazy. Doesn't make any sense. If people understood. If there was one thing, I would explain to people, if I thought they would understand, it would be what the Fed was doing to them. But people aren't ready to hear about something that is injected into their bloodstream. So are people really ready to learn, what is happening at the Federal Reserve? I don't think so. But here we are anyway. So this is formerly Lift the Veil, now LTV Crypto. We talk about world-changing things on this channel. We continue to do that, and we even have sponsors. I'm wearing our decentralized t-shirt today. It's really cool, and we have other crypto shirts coming, and we have our store where we have some awesome merchandise, which you should check out at truthclothing.io. That is our merch site, and we have some great stuff. I mean, killer t-shirts, stickers, and everything, and crypto shirts. You can check them out. That's some of it right there. So go over there, truthclothing.io. We are about to receive this first shipment of crypto shirts. And we even have a new End the Fed shirt, which is on pre-order right now. So I need to get myself one of those. Go to truthclothing.io. Help support the show. Also, if you want any crypto consulting, if you feel like talking to somebody about getting started in crypto, I do that. You can sign up for that at bitcoinmissionary.com. That's my calendar where you can sign up. And we have crypto meetups on Sundays where you can come and meet up with people. We talk about all kinds of crazy stuff, really interesting things. We learned a lot about mining the last time, but that's $5 that really supports the show, and there's like a community. Bitcoinmissionary.com. You can sign up there, okay? And if you want to support the show any other way, we appreciate it. We appreciate everybody who cares about what we do here on Lift the Veil. So this article. I just wanted to. The Fed says, we've been talking about inflation for a long time, actually. So it's one of those things where it's something that we've been talking about for a long time, or I guess I should say I. My pronouns, I heard someone say my pronouns are we and us. Sometimes I do refer to myself that way because it used to be a team here, and Doshi is no longer with us. So I've been talking about inflation for a long time, so it is interesting when suddenly the news talks about inflation. It was like that time I was talking about this virus that was going around in China, and the news said it was the flu, and it was no big deal. And then all of a sudden everybody's talking about it. Now it's inflation. Everybody's talking about inflation. Costco and the Fed says, yeah, we're going to have some, but it'll be transitory. They say it's like a magic word. We're going to have some inflation, but it's going to be transitory. They say that for a very important reason, because if it's not transitory, then the world is going to end, actually. That's why this news is important. Because if it's not transitory, then the Fed might have to do something. So I'll explain that to you. This article says Costco disagrees with the Federal Reserve on the future of inflation. They disagree that it's transitory. And what they're saying is they're a business. They order lots of things. And they see trends and so forth. And the Fed isn't out there buying and selling stuff on a daily basis to actual consumers. But Costco really does that. And Costco doesn't see signs of the current inflationary pressures receding for a variety of reasons, which they outlined in their call. So I'll read to you just from the list of things that the CFO, Richard Galanti of Costco, says are causing inflation. He says during this earnings call, we've had a lot of questions about inflation over the past few months. There have been and are a variety of inflationary pressures that we and others are seeing. Inflationary factors abound. These include higher labor costs, higher freight costs, higher transportation demand, along with container shortage and port delays, increased demand in various product categories, various shortages of everything from chips to oils to chemical supplies, and chemical supplies by facilities hit by the Gulf freeze and storms, and in some cases, higher commodity prices. He says, particularly, there's going to be inflation in beef, paper goods, and aluminum foil. And we already saw inflation in lumber, and prices are up on everything. And so he says inflation isn't going to stop, which the Fed said it would. So why is that important? The Fed says inflation is here, but it's transitory. Because if it wasn't transitory, then that would imply that they would have to do something about it. And the Fed has said that they aren't even thinking about raising interest rates. While the only way to fight inflation that the Fed has is to raise interest rates. And right now we know that interest rates are very close to zero at the short end, and about 1.6% right now on the 10-year, which is what everybody's looking at. But the part the Fed controls, the rate's almost zero. And a lot of companies, corporations, are borrowing at rates very close to 0%, including the federal government, which is borrowing at very low interest rates. The Fed says it's okay for there to be a little inflation, a little over 2% for a while, without them doing anything. But if it's not transitory, they're going to have to raise rates. The reason that's apocalyptic is that there's too much debt to raise rates, because there's so much debt that if you raise rates, then the cost of paying those debts goes up, and it can go up in a hurry, because it might not seem like a lot going from 1% to 2%, because 2% is still pretty low interest. But if you have some bonds out and you're paying 1% versus 2%, 2% is twice as much, and 3% would be 3 times as much. And right now we have over 4% inflation on the CPI. So who wants bonds that pay 2%? And that's where you get to a crisis, is when interest rates go up. So not many people are talking about it seriously, and I don't know. This could have happened a long time ago. It hasn't happened yet. But making economics simple, when you have a lot of debt, then when your carrying costs of that debt go up, then you start to be in trouble, and then you can't borrow as much, you can't spend as much, and then after that, credit markets can freeze, and if they stop being able to lend money, if we stop lending money, then the entire economy crashes, and and maybe we go into a deflationary death spiral. So it's confusing, because right now we have inflation. Into the future we have inflation. But if inflation gets too bad, I've heard said that the solution to high prices is high prices, because eventually people can't afford to pay the high prices anymore. So hyperinflation continuing depends on the continued increase in the supply of money, which so far is all the Fed has done. So there's different theses you can go on. I'm invested as if we're going to have inflation, but really, if you look at it just from like a normie point of view, the entire system is a house of cards that should completely collapse. That could wipe out almost everything. I take that into consideration. I own crypto and silver because I like them a lot. I think they're the best thing I can have, even if shit hits the fan. But it could be that we're due for a complete and utter, sovereign debt crisis. Like, the government can't pay its bills anymore. The government can't borrow any money anymore. And corporations can't borrow any money anymore. And everything goes, bust, basically, for lack of a better word. We have to start all over from scratch. That is the Great Reset. It could happen. Not many people talk about it. And I don't know if I'm invested as if that's what's going to happen. I wouldn't even know what to say is safe in that scenario. But as far as inflation goes, I don't give financial advice, but I take it seriously. As far as inflation goes, and the reason you have inflation, and inflation would be 10% right now, if they included the cost of housing prices, which are going up at an alarming rate. And some people have to ask themselves, if we're in the end stages, the blow off top, when you see the frenzy in things like real estate right now. But to make it simple, when there are more dollars chasing the same or smaller amount of goods, then prices go up. And people who've said inflation wasn't coming haven't noticed that we've had inflation, massive inflation. Stocks, bonds, real estate are all up. Those aren't counted in the CPI. But then you start dropping in the money, PPP loans, the extra unemployment money, and the extra stimmy checks, and look what happens. And people want to blame Biden, which I think is funny, because even though Biden does spend a lot, Trump really was an advocate of huge spending. Remember, Trump's the one who wanted the bigger stimmy checks in the first place. So this is a government problem, a systemic government problem. They want to spend more, and they want to spend more now to take advantage of the low interest rates. So you want something in an inflationary environment that's scarce and desirable, like an old Porsche, for example. Scarce and desirable. Old Porsches are a great investment because there aren't that many of them, and people always want old Porsches. Well, Bitcoin's a lot like that. Gold's a lot like that too. But the nice thing about Bitcoin is it's even more scarce. So I do have to make a pitch for both precious metals and cryptocurrency as hedges against inflation. And here it is. We are in the environment where things that are scarce and desirable should be going up in value. And now we see gold responding. And over the longer term, Bitcoin seems to respond to that impulse as well. So even though everything's down, even though things are gloomy, I have to say I feel good about cryptocurrencies, not only Bitcoin as digital gold, but also the other stuff. So namely Ethereum and Polygon, and stuff that has to do with DeFi and NFTs. I just think whatever the story is with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is a scarce store of value, and I think as a hedge against inflation, if that's what you're looking for, I still think over the long term that it's desirable. It's a name brand. And it's like owning a special collectible item, basically. But besides this store of value thing, you also have huge things going on in cryptocurrency as far as DeFi goes and as far as NFTs go. And if you're interested in that stuff, then ETH, covers you. DeFi kind of runs on ETH and NFTs. And I've definitely been thinking a lot about Polygon, which I mentioned in my newsletter when it was 50 cents. It's about $1.80 now. And it looks like everything is going to run on Polygon, Matic, which is available on Coinbase, really easy to buy. And Mark Cuban just invested in it too. He's invested in a few things that I like. I also have Aave, AAVE, which is DeFi, decentralized lending and borrowing, also runs on Polygon, just like a lot of other things. So I'm still super excited about cryptocurrencies, and I still just want to sell things to buy more cryptocurrencies at this time, even though I'd also be happy to get more silver and gold. So if I were to give financial advice, I would say grab yourself something limited, scarce, and desirable. May I suggest silver and gold if you can't handle the volatility of cryptocurrency. Or if you are a volatility Chad, then cryptocurrencies might be the thing for you. If you have a nice long-term horizon and you don't have weak paper spinach hands and just can't handle it when the price goes down. But since I don't give financial advice, I don't have to worry about what you do and what the results are. But I will say that I still feeling pretty good about not just cryptocurrency, but silver and gold too. And this is the kind of environment. It's the perfect environment for those things to do well until the end. And then it's still good to have something that's real, like silver and gold. So, yep, those are my thoughts today. If you want to see the full show I did yesterday that I couldn't post on YouTube, I'm on Rockfin now. And you can go to rockfin.com/lifttheveil. And if you subscribe there, it really supports the show. And there are a bunch of creators on there. So like if you go to my channel on Rockfin, rockfin.com/lifttheveil, and subscribe, like I said, it really supports the show. And then there's tons of other creators on there, like Whitney Webb and Last American Vagabond and Jaronism and a bunch of people. So check that out. And there's just stuff I can't freaking say on YouTube. So it's good to have places that support you where you can say stuff. And there are still some more things to say, I think, about these vaccines. So I'll still be covering that. And you can also follow my work on DLive, dlive.tv/lifttheveil. But I'm going to try to do more things on Rockfin too. And anyway, that's what's going on. All right, that's it. Sign up to the meetup. Come to the meetup on Sundays. BitcoinMissionary.com. It's fun. And I'll work on my newsletter for everybody. For YouTube, for Tuesday night, that is what it is.